The mid and late 20th century was filled with tense relations and close encounters between the United States and the Soviet Union. This was known as the Cold War. The Cold War was a result of the opposing capitalist and communist societies of each country along with the power that each country emerged with from World War II. The Cold War spanned 45 years, 9 U.S. presidents, and 4 continents. It is also a somber and debated topic for many historians with conflicting views. During the Cold War, the U.S. tried to prevent communism from spreading further than it already had, a policy known as containment, proposed by George Kennan in 1946. The U.S. used the CIA to urge coups in potentially communist countries. These actions were primarily prominent in Latin America. The CIA urged staged coups in Chile, Nicaragua, and Guatemala. And although most did not succeed how the United States wanted them to, they are still good examples of the United States policy of containment.
And now, our feature presentation.
Okay, so let's start by talking about the Cold War in regard to Cuba. Can anyone tell me what they already know about that subject?
Fidel Castro rose to power in 1959, making Cuba the first communist state in the Western Hemisphere.
Good. Anyone have anything else? Correction, does anyone else have anything they'd like to share? How about you, Brandon?
What?
What do you know about Cuba?
It's below Florida.
Thank you. That was helpful. I meant in regard to the Cold War.
What about the Bay invasion? Wasn't that a total fail for the U.S.?
Yeah, the United States thought their just arrival would cause the Cuban people to rebel and overthrow the communist government, but they were defeated by Castro. The Soviet missile crisis was much more effective.
The U.S. started out with the Soviet Union missiles in Cuba, and then the U.S. blockaded Cuba.
Good. And how did the U.S. get the Soviets to agree to move the missiles?
The United States had a pinky promise not to invade Cuba, and Kennedy took his missiles out of Western Europe.
Can anyone explain this political cartoon to me? Brandon?
They're arm wrestling?
Who is?
I don't know.
It's Kennedy and Khrushchev in the picture. They're sitting on missiles. It's representative of the arms race between Cuba and Soviet Union, specifically the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Okay, great. What about the 1954 coup in Guatemala? Does anyone know anything about that?
Yes, the CIA sponsored a military coup against the second legally elected president, Jacobo Arbenez Guzman. For the next 40 years, there was a counterinsurgency warfare.
Didn't Arbenez want to reform Guatemala? I thought he wanted to change the country's oligarchy to benefit the poor people.
That's right. Now why would this threaten the U.S.?
I read that it threatened American commercial interests.
Perfect. This leads into the next topic, the United Fruit Company.
Oh yeah, Arbenez wanted companies to reform agrarian society, but didn't want to pay as much as the company wanted.
Exactly, and Eisenhower approved of CIA intervention. This included assassins, and government sabotage. And how about the 1973 coup against Allende in Chile?
It was against Salvador Allende. He was the first democratically elected president in Latin America.
Yes, the CIA worked 3 years on the coup and paid for the assassination of General René Streidinger, even though he didn't support the Marxist leader.
If he didn't support Allende, then why did the CIA kill him?
Because he opposed the radical behavior of a coup, and Allende was a pretty decent president. He kept the democratic government and respected civil liberties.
Now, in the end, the United States attempted coup did not work. What actually... Could you take your headphones out? Okay, so what actually caused the coup?
I think Allende began to nationalize foreign business, and this made Nixon mad because it affected the U.S. Soon Nixon began to plot against Allende and other countries, stop investing in Chile out of fear of nationalization.
Yeah, and this obviously affected the economy. The middle class united in opposition with help from the CIA.
Oh, and then Allende refused to surrender and shot himself.
And who was General Augusto Pinochet?
He became the Chilean dictator after Allende died. He tortured and killed Allende's supporters, but the U.S. still supported his reign.
What can you tell me about this political cartoon?
It represents the fact that the U.S. helped overthrow a relatively good leader only to have a dictator come in and kill people while the U.S. still supported him.
Okay, now what about the 1979 Sandinista takeover in Nicaragua?
Communist Sandinistas overthrew the regime of President Anastasio Somoza Debayle, and he fled to the United States. He gave power to Francisco Acurio when he left, and Acurio promised not to let the communists take over.
And what was significant about the Sandinistas?
They overthrew a U.S. trained National Guard.
Very good.
Later.
Okay. Now, what do all of the U.S. interventions in Latin America affairs have in common? What policy do they relate to?
Containment?
Want to elaborate on that?
Containment was a policy initially proposed by George Kennan in his Long Telegraph. He told Eisenhower that he shouldn't let communism spread more than it already has.
So like when the U.S. tried to overthrow Chile's Marxist leader and tried to get the Cuban people to overthrow the communist Fidel Castro in the Bay of Pigs invasion?
Exactly. I think that's good for today. You guys can leave.
You say you want a revolution, well, you know, we all want to change the world. You tell me that it's evolution, well, you know.
And then Marx looked down on me.
Pretty much.
What? Are you serious?
Anyways.
Why?
Anyways.
No, we're talking about this later.
Okay, later.
So communism.
Wasn't that when the U.S. found out that the Soviet Union had put missiles in Cuba and then blockaded? I cannot read. Okay.
You were so close.
Okay. Wasn't that when the
Well,